And we are live. What's up, guys? We got special guest Ask Nelly joining us for a
Hi.
cool podcast. So it's going to be quite interesting. So this might be a little different than the way you guys are used to, but we'll start off kind of the way we always do. So Nelly, for anyone who's not familiar with you, do you want to just give a little background about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a dating and confidence coach. I started on TikTok, and that's how most people know me. And I've been doing that for about a year. I also coach a lot of clients on the side, and I'm gearing up to launch a course for anyone who is having issues navigating this modern dating world and wants to figure out how to meet their Mr. Right or their Mrs. Right. So I do a lot of tips and tricks, and I feature that on my Instagram. I post reels almost every day. And then obviously I'm on TikTok, like I said. So that's me.
And if you guys are wondering who that good-looking guy from what her latest reel is, that's me. Do you mostly teach men or women?
I would say the majority of my followers are women and the majority of my clients are women, but I do coach men. And actually, a lot of the men I've coached have seen incredible transformations in their confidence and their ability to court women. And I always say to my male clients, I say, at minimum, you're going to get laid. At maximum, you're going to find a wife. So um, it's working out really well for them. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
It's
Uh,
interesting, though, with men and women. We want the same things, but the ways of going about it are different. It's very it's a lot of fun. I love what I do.
Agreed. So you told me the story offline, but for anyone who's wondering, how did you get into coaching?
Kind of by accident. So last year, actually about a year ago, exactly, I was working a corporate job, doing really well in my corporate job. Just got promoted, managing a massive business, and I thought I was going to get an MBA and just continue working up the corporate ladder. And I was at a Fortune 500 company, and it was, my job couldn't be more secure. Let's just say that. I went home for 4th of July weekend, and home for me is Canada. That's where I'm from. And my sister was dealing with some dating issues. And this was kind of around the time, during lockdown, everyone was, I feel like, filming TikToks. And I had never filmed a TikTok, but I was trying to convince her to do one of the dances with me. She wasn't into it. She's pretty camera shy. And
Mm.
so I ended up just kind of jokingly posting a TikTok about what to do if you got ghosted. And it kind of went viral, and people started commenting, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation? And I really loved just the process of connecting with people online. And I felt like I had a little community, and no one I knew about it because it was just my little secret with myself. I was in, I know I'm kind of rambling, but it's coming around. So I was in a really small town where my cottage is in Canada, and, bored out of my mind. So I figured, let me just continue filming some TikToks and this will be fun. And I did that. And then, yeah, I kind of grew, and I eventually couldn't continue balancing my social media with, it's not that I couldn't continue balancing it. Actually, it's more that, people from my corporate job were starting to find out about it, and it became more of a question of like, where my priorities were. And the reality is I was kind of checking out of my corporate job and checking into this new community that I'd found. And I was starting school. So I ended up, instead of going into an MBA program, which I was doing pre-course for all summer, I ended up going into a negotiation and mediation master's program, because I really enjoyed the process of helping people, and I wanted to become more credible in the coaching space. So I basically changed my life, and am now pretty much exclusively doing this. So that's kind of how I got started.
Well, getting on a PWF podcast is definitely a good stepping stone on that, because you haven't made it in the coaching industry until you do a podcast with me. So that's you're on the right track. Okay, so
Wow.
that's interesting. How did you wind up in Miami?
I actually moved down here for school 7 years ago for my undergrad. Yeah. So that's how I always had the American dream.
The American trip.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, interesting. So let's share the story of how you and I met, because I think it's an interesting story.
Mm,
If you have no objections.
go for it. I'd love to hear your side.
I mean, I think it's going to be the same as your side. It's a very simple story. Basically, you were walking home, and I was going out, and I was with my dog, and I cold approached you, and we talked for a few minutes. You were on the phone, so you didn't really give me too much of the time of the day. And I got your number, and then you didn't really text me back too much. I was a little heartbroken, but it kind of makes sense now given some of the advice I learned on your channel. And then we ran into each other later on. I believe it was like a month later, and you recognized me. I didn't recognize you. And then at that point, nothing had really changed until my roommate told me that he could have sworn he saw you on TikTok. And I was like, really? Like, let me see this. And I'm like, holy shit, that's that girl. And I saw that you have a dating collab. I found the channel interesting, so I was like, you know, I'd rather do some collabs with her than keep trying to mac on her. So is my version of the story off?
Did he know that we'd met?
He saw it that night. So that night, basically, he saw you, and he was like, I think she looks familiar.
Oh, okay. So funny. Most of that I would say is correct. Yeah, I was on the phone when you first met me, and I remember I always am very impressed when a man approaches a woman in person these days because it's actually becoming kind of a rarity. So I never like to be rude and I can be a little bit, I've said I have a bit of a resting bitch face. But I always really like to just make sure I'm being super present with people in person. And and so
I had to practically beg you to get off the phone. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I know you're on the phone. I'm not gonna give you shit for that.
Sometimes I get caught off guard. But so you stopped me, used this specific line, and I thought, okay, whatever. Like, I was actually trying to get over someone else at the time, I think. So, you know, I wasn't really in a headspace where I was trying to meet people. So I basically, I think I just kind of brushed it off. And then when you approached me the second time, I could have sworn you used the exact same line. And that's when I was like, you've approached me before with this exact same line. And that's how that second interaction came to be. And then, you texted me a few weeks later, maybe a month later, and was like, I think I found you. We're in the same niche, something like that.
Yeah, I actually found you. I don't know if I told you this. I actually found about you that night, but then I meant to text you, but then I forgot about it. And then like a month later, I stumbled upon one of your videos again. I was like, oh, wait, I got to hit her up.
That's good. It means I'm on the For You page. Woo!
Yeah, I believe so. Let's do this. Actually, this might be a fun thought experiment. So be brutally honest. I think the guy's going to get a real kick out of this. Like, you will not hurt my feelings. Just be ruthless as you need to be. How would you rate? Like, what would you say are the good things about my game, and what could I do better? Give me, like, let's pretend I'm like one of your coaching clients.
Based on your interaction, the first in-person interaction.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought it was good. I mean, I think what it comes down to with approaching women is, if they feel that there's a compatibility with you back, it's going to stick. And if not, it won't, you know? Yeah. But I think I don't think there's really, I can't remember it too vividly. I don't remember exact words, but like I said, you know, I think men are only going to be improving their odds of meeting women if they are making a point to approach them in person, because there's something about having that interaction face to face that online dating simply can't provide. So at least from an initial meeting. And I say the same to my female clients. You miss 50% of the opportunity if you're not maximizing those in-person interactions. And that was kind of, I think, the whole inspiration behind the TikTok video that I posted with you a few days ago. It's about how to make the most of those in-person interactions. If you do see an opportunity, you can either take it, or like they say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you know, and that's just the whole point. Listen, it might not pan out and rejection's a part of the process, but you're only increasing your odds. So
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think I went through your channel. Like, I mean, you have a lot of videos. So I'm going to preface this by saying I didn't go through all of them, but I went through a sizable amount. And I actually have a very detailed list. I wrote down all the things I agree with you on, all the things I disagree with you on. And I would say it's about 50-50. Like, I think like 40% of your content I agree with definitively. 40% I disagree with, and 20% I'm like, I'm not sure. Like maybe I'm kind of like iffy about.
I want to know what you disagree with me on.
Yeah, so I was going to actually get through that. So let's start, but let's start with the things we agree on. So let's start on the on where we overlap. So yeah, I highly encourage everyone to check out Ask Nelly. She has some good stuff. And your videos are very easy to digest because it's different than my style. My videos are like kind of longer. Yours are very like quick and to the point, which I think is something I could start doing myself. So first one is, you say that there's one word that if a guy's constantly telling you this word, that means he's not interested. You can say the busy word. As a guy, I can definitely agree with that. Like if I'm not interested in a girl, I'm always going to be, I usually don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm just not interested, because that's kind of like, I don't know, it could be like, you don't want to be a dick. So I'll always say that I'm busy. So, and I think it's the same way the other way around. If a girl's constantly too busy for you, then she's really not that interested, because we find time for things, we prioritize the things that we want to do. So with that, I think that, I completely agree.
Cool.
Numero uno.
I stand by my original words.
Feel free to weigh in on any of these points too. So another thing that I agree on is when you're talking about, like, okay, when should you text, a guy or a girl back, right? And you're just like, dude, like just text them when you're free. Like if you're free, then text them back. If you're not free, then don't text them back, right? Like text them back when you're free. Like you don't need to like make a big deal out of it, which I also is what I teach my clients. Like if you're like my texting strategy literally is I'm free, I'll text you back. If not, I'll text you back later. So far we agree, right? That's two. Whoever cares less has the power.
My mantra. I gotta trademark that line. I don't know if I feel like I made that line up, but maybe it's been out there for a while. I've been saying it for years. I still stand by it.
I will stand by that too. The only problem is that if I'm teaching men that they should care less because so they can have the power, you're teaching women to care less, then we're gonna like get to a point where, like, assuming you are not like I access all the men, you have access to all the women, then we're gonna create a society where like just no one gives a shit and everyone is just like playing the low investment game. So that is like a potential caveat to that.
But there's a caveat to that caveat. So that mantra only applies to certain situations. So when you're in that, for women, for example, when you're in that state where it's like, you can tell, and it's a gut feeling of like, this guy's not that into me. And I think men have that feeling too, actually, like, I don't think this girl's that into me. And then you start to care because you start to want to convince them. That desperation, that's where that mantra comes in. It's not off the bat when you're in a healthy relationship with someone who they like you like them, then it's a little bit like, and in any dynamic, there's always a balance of power in any dynamic in life. So, I think where that mantra comes in is more when like you start to feel desperate, then you are like, okay, I officially care more than the other person. They have that power over me. Right. But yeah, power dynamics are inherently built into every relationship, and working relationships included, family relationships included.
Sure. I mean, I would actually say that it applies, in my opinion, that it applies everywhere. It applies in, I wish that wasn't the case, but it applies in like when you're like midway through a relationship, it applies all the time. Like who cares less usually does have the power, unfortunately, because it's kind of like that. But anyway, so that's another one. So another thing you say is how to get, so you're talking about like, okay, how can a girl get approached more, which I think is something that a lot of women wonder, like, like, because a lot of women, they want to meet a guy, but they don't want to be the one that's doing the approach, which I think is a reasonable position. And you say the biggest thing is to look approachable, which I also agree with, because that is like, if I'm walking down the street, I see two girls, they're both equally attractive. One of them is speed walking and she has her headphones in. And the other one is just like casually strolling. She doesn't have her headphones in. She looks like she doesn't have a resting bitch face. Like 100% of the time, I will approach that girl. So I think that's definitely like a huge factor. So if you're a girl and your main goal is to get approached, not only should you maximize, physically how good you look, but you should also maximize your approach, whatever approaching this.
You say that, but you also approached me and I had headphones in and I had a bitch face.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, first of all,
I must be really exceptional.
I'm a weird specimen. So like I don't give a shit. So you can't like base average male behavior on me. That's the first
You
factor.
get a rise out of like trying new things, I can tell.
Yeah, I
You like
do.
relish in that. You're like, ooh, this looks like a hard nut to crack. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. And the second factor, this was like literally, we were going out, and it was just like my first approach of the night. So generally speaking, when I leave the house and I'm trying to go out, like I'll just approach the
You have
first,
a quota that you want to reach. You're like, okay, I got to get
no, no,
15
no.
out of the way.
No, not at all. I don't have a quote or anything like that. It's just that like when I'm going out, right? Like I know I'm gonna be talking to girls. I'll generally try to like kind of like it's kind of like jumping into the pool, right? Instead of just like dipping your toe,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just approach the first cute girl I see, and then the anxiety goes away, and then you don't give a shit, and then no. But there's no quote or anything like that. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
play. All right. So another one that you have is you say mistakes women make around men. So when I saw that title, I was actually getting ready to like look for things I disagree with. But you said
Mm-hmm.
nagging and acting like a bro, which those are the two things that I agree with. Like, yeah, we men, we don't like it when women nag, and we don't like it when they act like bros. We like feminine women. I would add one more to that. So actually, let me ask you this: if you could add one more to that list instead of two, three, what would you say the third one is?
Mistakes, common mistakes women make around
Yeah.
men. Okay, I would say acting like his mom or his therapist or his best or his yeah, his mom or his therapist or his assistant, because the thing is that can be really appealing in the beginning stages, right? Men love to feel, I think men enjoy feeling nurtured in that way, and that's something that a
In
lot of
some ways.
women, yeah, in some ways. But I think when you do it too much and it is almost like it's a little too coddly, there's a very delicate balance, and you need to maintain that, you want to be the hot girlfriend. You got to maintain that. I would also say leading with your resume. I think men want an ambitious, accomplished woman, but or some men do, but it can be it can take away uh, the romance when you are
Mhm.
leading with a laundry list of accomplishments. And I think people, that's something that people have to earn, and it's something that you can diffuse over time. You don't need to go in like, okay, here's how amazing I am.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, I think that could apply to guys too. Like, you don't want to be on a date with a guy and he's just all like, "Yeah, so I just bought this building today, and I got this promotion a week ago." Like, you don't give a shit,
I
right?
would
Like,
maybe disagree a little bit there,
okay,
because I think women, and I think you're right. Like, there's no one likes a humble brag, right? Or that person that's so arrogant to the point where they think like, yeah, their shit doesn't stink. But women, I think, do look for someone who can provide in that way. And they subconsciously associate, oh, well, if he just bought this building or he just built this house, okay, this is like a man. This is someone who can
okay.
provide for me. And I think maybe there are a lot of women who don't want to acknowledge that to themselves, but I think inherently, like, yeah. I think that's why those men will try to like do that to impress a
Mhm.
woman. But when a woman does that to a man, it doesn't come across impressive. It comes across kind of it just it's unromantic.
Right. I mean, I see your point. Don't you feel though that like there's a certain point where like, and I get your point that like, yeah, women do value those things, of course. But if the guy's bragging too much, like it almost like takes away from the accomplishment.
Well,
Like,
that's why I said no one likes a humble brag. There's a way
right.
to do it, right?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah. If you
a way
sure,
to,
okay, that's your point. If you slip that in there without making it seem like you're bragging, then yeah.
yeah, I mean, so let me give you an example. Okay. I could, if I was on a date right now, I could be like, and they were like, oh, like, um, what do you do? Like, this is Nelly in an interview versus Nelly on a date. If you're like, oh, like, what do you do in your, like, what does a date look like for you? I could be like, well, I have a master's degree at Columbia. I was working for a Fortune 500 company. I have 700,000 followers on social media. I snooze fest. No one fucking cares.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
But
true.
that works in an interview. That is important in an interview. When you're trying to network and get ahead in your career, that is so important. On a date, a man, you hear that and you're like, this girl is really making herself out to be something really great. Not only to the wrong person, that might be intimidating. And also, it's like, it doesn't really make a man think like, oh wow, this is like a very feminine woman.
Right.
It makes me look like a hard ass. So on a date, it's more like, oh, I'm in school. Yeah. Just working on a master's degree. Yeah, busy days, try to like get outside and stay active. That's the difference, and that's like I just showed you kind of live a little bit of like just the different ways to package it up. And then on the second or third date, you can be like, oh, you mentioned you were in school. Like, what are you studying? Oh, I'm studying mediation. Fourth date, where did you say to go to school again? Oh, just a school in New York. And it's not about downplaying your successes. It's just about like, you have to know how to diffuse that into the conversation. And like I said, those details have to be earned. You can, if you're really curious about me, look me up on LinkedIn. You'll get everything you need to know there. I don't need to sit here on the date and waste 30 minutes of your time talking about how great I am. It's
Yeah,
about
I
creating
agree.
a
I don't
romantic.
think we actually disagree about anything when it comes to that point. I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
Kind of leads me
I'm
to the
just showing the
sixth.
difference.
Mhm. Kind of leads me to the sixth thing that I say we agree on, and that's you talk a lot about leading with feminine energy, which I think is crucial because the point you make is that alpha males, they're not attracted to masculine women; they're attracted to feminine women, which is definitely very true. Like alpha guys, they do not want a bro. They do not want like a masculine woman. They want a feminine woman. And I think women get confused about that sometimes. They're like, well, I want to be like independent. I want to be modern. I want to attract a high value guy. So maybe I should act more like a guy when it's actually, kind of the opposite. So can you speak on that for a little bit? Just explain what you mean by leading with feminine energy.
Men like to be around women who make them feel like men.
Right.
So that's different for every guy, right? For some guys, it's a shoulder rub at the end of the day with, "Oh my God, you work so hard. You must be so stressed out. Like, you're such a hard worker. I so appreciate you." For some men, it's that. For other men, it's just being super feminine looking so that they feel more masculine. Like it's so different for everyone. But at the end of the day, men want to be around women who make them feel like men.
Right.
And women, I think, especially in 2021, because we've had to really lean on the masculine energy within us, and everyone has masculine and feminine energy within them. It's
Right.
different for everyone, right? For some people it might be 60-40, for others 95-5.
I agree with you.
It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But we've had to really tap into that masculine energy to get ahead in our careers. And we're now doing jobs that we haven't done historically. And we've applied that same approach to dating. I think part of it is a defense mechanism, because we don't want to feel like we owe a man anything, or if a man takes us to dinner and picks up the bill, now I have to go home with him. No, you don't, right? But we feel that defense mechanism. So that's when women are like, no, 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 I got the bill, or, oh, no, no, you don't have to pick me up. Who are you defend? Like, why are you so defensive? Just chill. Let him open the jar of jelly for you if it's hard to open. Like, whatever. It's not a big deal. But I think that's important in a relationship to recognize that what works for you in your career isn't it's not you're not working for a promotion in your relationship. And actually it's more fun for women, when I think dating is more fun when you get to tap into your masculine energy, or your feminine energy, excuse me, because it takes a lot of just all of that logistics and planning and the things that really aren't that exciting, picking the restaurant, what time should we be there, double confirming, it's like the guys want to do that, just let them. And if a guy doesn't want to do that, then he's not an alpha man.
I don't know about that. I was agreeing with you completely up until that last part. I think different guys have different things that they look for. But okay, we're leading into like things we disagree on. But I did want to touch on something that you said. You mentioned that like it's important for women to be like kind of feminine. I do think that like this is it's so like yeah. It like I've just looked back at all the girls I've ever dated, like been in serious relationships with, and they were all like not overly feminine, like not damsels in distress, but they were like very feminine. They were very like comfortable with being feminine. And there was no like, I don't know, attempts of them to be like masculine or something like that. So I will definitely second that. But all right, let's get to the juicy stuff. You ready for the things we disagree on?
I don't
So
know.
the first one is,
It
and
is.
I think you can probably predict the first point I'm going to pick, or actually my subscribers I'm sure can if they're familiar with your content. So you say in one of your videos that a man should always pay the bill, and if not, he's not a real man. So I'm gonna make a little argument here. So I'm gonna preface this by
Okay, wait,
saying
just hold on. Those were not my words. My
okay,
words were men should never let a woman pay for a first date. But go on.
right. And then in another video, I believe you said that if a guy asks you to split the bill, then don't make a big deal out of it, but then you should not basically give him a second date.
That was also for a first date, though. Both of those videos were related to first dates.
Right. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like you go on a first date, and then the guy's like, "Hey, do you want to split the bill?"
Right.
And
So I
like,
just want to make sure that's being clarified. First date,
right.
I don't believe if a man asks you out as a woman, you should be splitting the bill. Correct. Other dates, I haven't really commented on that in the past. So first dates, that's my stance.
Oh yeah. If I get anything wrong, just definitely clarify. So here's my argument to that. So first off, when I go out, I do always offer to pay for girls' drinks. And that's simply because I'm a pragmatist, because I know that a certain percentage of women will get turned off if I don't do that. And to me, like $15, not really a big deal. Waste, a girl who I might have really wanted to hook up with, not hooking up with me over something so small. That's just like a stupid use of my time. That being said, I always very much like it when a woman offers to split the bill. Now, pretty much every time I decline, it's like, no, it's okay, I got it. But that gets a girl like huge bonus points with me. Like the girl who I'm currently seeing, she actually did that on our first date, as she likes to remind me. In addition, if a girl is like too expecting, like a girl is like, I can just tell like feels entitled to like she's just, I don't know, like she's acting very entitled, that's like a big turn off to me. And I might have sex with her if she's attractive, but then chances are I won't want anything more with her. So, and I think a lot of guys kind of feel the same way. I would say the second point is I would equate, like, I know in your videos you say that like women should not feel obligated to have sex with a guy just because he bought you a drink or something like that. Like the guy should not feel entitled to sex, which I actually agree with you on that. But I would say that women should not also feel entitled to getting things from the guy, even if it's something as minor as a drink. So I just see like a big like I don't want to use the word hypocrisy, but I want to say like I don't know, like disconnect there, where like you feel like men should not be entitled to your body because they bought you something, but yet you should be more or less entitled to, a drink or dinner or whatever it is on the first date. So how do you what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with exactly what I said originally. If you like it when a woman offers, cool, that's your prerogative. I personally think women are prized to be won. I think they are not equal in this society, not biologically, not societally. Therefore, I don't think they should be treated with an expectation that they should somehow early on in the stages of courtship try to win a man over by being somehow meeting him halfway. I just don't believe in that. I think if a man asks you on a date, the expectation is he pays. If he doesn't want to pay, I don't have a problem paying for myself. I take myself to nice dinners all the time, probably better restaurants, quite honestly, than most of dates can provide on a first date. That's fine, but it's not about the money, it's about the principle. I think
It's not about the money
if a
for the guys
man is chivalrous, and I personally, it's different for other women. Maybe some women don't care about chivalry. Some women, for them, first, they'll go home with a guy even if they paid for their own cup of coffee. That's okay. But for me, at least, and I think a lot of my female followers who are looking for something a little bit more lasting, listen, if you're trying to just hook up and that's it, one and done, who cares? If you're looking for a relationship, I need to see in those first few dates, first of all, that you are investing in me, because, there is that old saying, women choose who they sleep with, men choose who they marry, right? And I personally just think that a chivalrous man would never let a woman pay for a date. I'm not in this, I guess, like ultra progressive feminist bucket. of people who think, I'm not into that, splitting a bill on a first date. I think it's kind of embarrassing for a man. And I think it's embarrassing for a woman if a man expects her to do that. It just shows that he doesn't respect the struggles that she goes through as a woman. The fact that women are just more vulnerable in society for many reasons. So if a man doesn't understand that, then it shows he doesn't respect a woman or doesn't care to understand the female struggle. That's my opinion.
Couldn't a man then make the argument that because if you don't sleep with him on the first date, you don't respect his struggle and how hard it is for him to get laid, and how, let's face it, it's a lot easier for women to, find a partner to sleep with. For men, it's harder, right?
Sorry, I would have to stop you right there, if that's okay. The struggle to get laid. Do you know how many men pay for? There's no struggle to get laid. To get laid, if you're not paying for it, depends on what you look like, depends on how much you earn. The more successful a guy is, the less the struggle is going to be. The less successful a guy is, or the less good looking he is, the harder it's going to be. But I think there's no struggle. The struggle to get laid, I'm sorry, that's not a compelling enough argument for me.
But we can agree at least that it is, let's take all factors being equal, not prostitution. It is much easier for women to get sex than it is for a man, right? I'm not saying
haven't seen a statistic on that. I can't comment on that. I don't.
So we did a recent, so I can actually give you a statistic.
And I don't think women, by the way, are actively looking for to get laid. That's not for a lot of women. If you want to get laid, you'll find someone, and there are plenty of men who put very little effort in and can find someone to sleep with. I don't think we're talking about dating, right? We're not talking about going to a bar, buy a girl a drink, take her home. We're talking about what the fundamental courtship stages are for finding a lasting long-term partnership. It's different.
Yeah. So the point I'm making, though, is I see what you're saying. The point I'm making, though, is you're saying that, well, a guy not offering to pay for a woman's drink, that's like him not being sensitive to, maybe some, what it is like to be a woman. But I would make the argument that if that's your standard, then it's the same thing for a woman not to have sex with a guy, because
you can't compare what you just did, though, Alex. You compared the female struggle, which is, we're talking about lower pay. We're talking about 9 months pregnancies. We're talking about sexual violations and sexual assault. We're talking about we're just talking about physical vulnerability.
Let me just stop you, because
let me finish my point.
Okay.
Let me just finish my point. We're talking about a lot of inherent vulnerability that women go through just because they're women, and you are equating that to a male struggle because a guy can't get laid. It's not the same.
So I'm not equating it, though. That's the thing.
You did equate it. You said, but you say a woman can't. These were, I think, your words.
Because none of the things. The thing is, none of the things you mentioned have anything to do with a guy buying the girl a drink. So, for example, I sympathize with all the issues that women face. I'm not denying any of the things you said, but a guy buying a girl a drink doesn't address those issues one bit. That's the equivalency I'm trying to make. Like we're not talking about me like donating like $5,000 to survivors of sexual abuse or something like that, which is something that could help the situation. We're talking about a guy buying a girl a drink.
We're talking about a man paying for a woman on a first date that he asked her on.
Right.
And if for some people, first date is a drink, for other people, it's a 5-course dinner. Sure. It depends, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're asking a woman on a date and you think, and we're not talking about a check dance, we're talking about a man expecting a woman to pay half. That's not the same thing as a check dance. If a man is expecting a woman to pay half, a check dance, like, oh, are you sure? That's different. You said like a woman offers. We're not talking about offering. I'm talking about a man letting a woman split a bill with him on a first date that he asked her on. Two different things. If a man is doing that, he doesn't respect her as a woman or see her as a prize to be won. That's fine on his end. You don't have to respect me. But I'm not. You just took yourself out of the running to be my future boyfriend.
But couldn't you make then the argument? Couldn't you make the argument then if a woman doesn't offer to pay that she doesn't respect him as a man and the time?
We didn't say anything about offer to pay. We just said we're talking about the physical act of paying. You can offer to pay on a date. you know? And again, if I offer to pay on a date, it's because I see this man, you know, I'm giving him, I guess there's an opportunity. I'm curious to see if he'll take me up on it. If he does, I'll for sure pay. I can afford to pay. I have no problem with that, but I'm not giving him a second date. I just think
Yeah,
it's very
I would
classless.
I would just fundamentally disagree with the argument that if a guy doesn't offer to pay, he doesn't respect her as a woman. Because, for example, the girl I'm seeing right now, I have more respect for her than any other woman besides my mom on this planet right now.
I didn't
Yet,
say offer to pay. I said allows her to pay.
okay, allows her to pay, whatever. I don't think that has anything to do with respect. Like I just don't see how that's respect is more things like, if he shows up late or he's on time. Like that is more to do with respect than the who pays for the bill. But I think this is a point that you and I are just going to disagree on. But that's kind of like the first one.
If your woman, um, she might feel okay paying for herself on the date. She might, if you said to her, I'll, yeah, like let's split it. Maybe she'd split it, right? But I can tell you, she would go home that night. She wouldn't feel that good about herself. She wouldn't feel that good about herself. It's
Well,
you just
why?
don't. Because she would feel like, I can't believe he just let me split the bill on the date. And she also probably, for the women who say, oh, I don't mind, those women do not see themselves as a prize to be won. They just don't. They don't see themselves as someone who's high value. It is a mindset. And I personally, I know what I bring to the table as a woman. I know how much I have to offer. I know how much I've invested in my personal growth, appearance, everything. And for me, if a man can't see that and he thinks that he's going to ask me on a date and I'm cool letting him pay, it means I don't see my own worth.
See, I would just so disagree with that. Like I don't even know where to start. Like, first of all, I disagree with the premise that as a woman you should act like the prize. Like, I think for a lot of guys, including myself, that is a major turnoff. Like when a girl
Let's break that down though. What is acting like a prize? Acting like you know your worth, right?
no, acting like
Worthy.
the guy, acting like the guy has to win you over.
Is that not how you approach life in general? For me, if I'm going into an interview, let me break it down in the business. This is actually this is a really good analogy, I think. This is the difference between two types of people who, for example, are looking for a job. Okay. I apply a lot of business analogies into my content because I think it makes it easier to digest.
No.
When I go into an interview, I act like they need to win me over. And guess what? I've never not gotten a job. There was a reason I was the youngest sales manager at one of the biggest companies in the world. And there was a reason I outperformed people who were MBAs, is because I know I walk through this world and I know what I bring to the table and I don't sell myself short. Then there are the people that act like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much for this interview. And you know what interviewers think? Maybe I'll take them on, but I can manipulate them. I'm going to make this person my bitch little intern. They're going to be getting me coffee every day. There's a difference. And if you walk through the world knowing your worth and acting like, you know what, you have to earn a seat at my table, you're going to get a lot farther in life. And that goes with relationships. It goes with work. It goes with even the personal standard you set for yourself. You don't set those standards for yourself, you're always going to settle for less. And that's what I inherently believe. And if you disagree, that's cool. But that's how I've approached my life. I don't plan on changing it.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to get you change how you approach your life. The point I'm making again is I just see. I mean, there's two separate arguments, but I just see like I guess we'll end it off on this in terms of this specific point. But I just see like a big disconnect between women saying that guys should not expect sex. Just because we went on a date does not mean you're entitled to my body. And a girl saying, but just because you asked me on a date, I'm entitled to getting a drink from you. I just see that as a major disconnect.
There's no entitled. No, not entitled. Like I said, I don't coach anyone to go in with expectations. I don't feel like you owe me something. I just see it as I see it as a flaw in your ability to be a classy individual. If you as a man are asking a woman on a date and then expecting her to pay.
But again, I just feel like that would be like a guy saying, I see a flaw in you as a woman. If you go on a date with me, you don't sleep with me on the first date. Like I see a flaw in you as a woman. Right. That would be like, I feel like it's just like the same type of argument.
Well, then that just shows that you are not secure. You are viewing women, I guess, really, if you want to break that down, that just shows me that you view women as an object to be used. I view a woman as an object. I am going to buy you this $5 muffin or $15 drink. And if you don't go home with me that night, you're putting a $15 value on that woman.
Sure. I mean, you're breaking down why this argument that a guy should not expect sex is flawed. And I agree with you. I don't teach my clients to expect, just because you buy a girl something doesn't mean that you're entitled to fuck her. But I see it as flawed, that thinking as flawed as the girl is entitled to a drink or a dinner from you. Like, I just see both of those equally flawed. Not one is
But
like
I never, but see, you're changing my words. My words were never, I feel entitled to a drink. I expect a drink. I never said that. I said, I see a man who asks a woman on a first date and doesn't pay or expects her to pay. I see that as an individual who doesn't have respect toward women, is not chivalrous, and is not classy. That's what I see. I do see, though, if a man is buying a woman a $15 drink and expecting she goes home with him that night, I see that man as a man who doesn't respect women also. Because you are putting a $15 price point on that woman and saying, oh, I bought you a drink. Now let me put you in the most vulnerable position and do the most physically interrogating thing a person can do to someone. Because what? I bought you a $15 drink. I buy people. I could buy my neighbor a $35. That's a very tit for tat type of thing. I could buy my neighbor a $35 cake, for their housewarming, or a nice bottle of wine. It doesn't mean I expect anything from them in return. Maybe right. I'd like them to be a nice neighbor, but if they don't want to be a nice neighbor, to be whatever. I'm secure enough in myself that I don't invest my relationships in those things. I see what you're saying, how you think there's a double-edged sword, but when it comes to romance and when it comes to courtship, women want to feel safe and secure, just like men want to feel needed. And for a woman to feel safe and secure, at the minimum, in the early stages of dating, that is one of the ways that a man can show her that he makes her feel safe and secure. If you as a man can't afford to take a woman on a nice date,
it has nothing to do with money. But no, see, I hear that argument that if you can't afford it, but let's take me for example. I can afford literally any. I'm not trying to brag, but I can afford any restaurant in Miami, right? But it has nothing to do with what I can afford, what I can't afford. It more has to do with the principle of the matter. So that argument is very disingenuous to say, oh well, if you can't afford it, that's just a straw man argument. Let's assume.
I didn't say if you can't afford it. I'm saying I'm saying I didn't say if you can't afford to take a girl on a date that you shouldn't date her. I'm saying you should find something within your price range, or if that price range is free, you can still make it romantic. Take a picnic, bring a $1 baguette, go to the park, and make her feel romance. It's about creating romance. And
not disagreeing with you on that. I agree that it's good to create romance. Again, so the point I'm making is that I see it as a double standard, because I think that a guy could make the argument that and it would be just as silly of an argument, rolling your eyes at me. Come on, the argument.
No, I'm just looking at my other screen. Okay. Sorry.
I know yours. You're good. The argument could be that okay, well, if a girl didn't sleep with me on the first date, that means she doesn't respect me as a man. That means she doesn't want to make me feel secure as a man, because now I have to go home and feel insecure because I didn't get sex. What if there's something off with my looks? And you would laugh at that. You'd be like, dude, that's so silly. And I would say, okay, but if you laugh at that, then you have to be able to laugh at the guy has to buy a girl a drink thing. Anyway, I think we're kind of going circles here. So I think
if a man needs sex on a first date to feel more of a man, then he has a lot of runway in front of him and a lot of work to do.
If a woman needs a $15 drink to feel more like a woman, then she also has a lot of work. So you can flip that argument right on its head. If a woman needs you to spend money on her on a first date, especially if she's a woman.
We just said this, though. It's not about spending money. Like I said, you can go on a picnic in the park and create an air of romance. It's the same principle. It's about making a woman feel courted and respected and safe. And if that is a $25 dinner, if that's a $500 dinner, if that's a free picnic in the park, walk in the park, I'm going to make you feel really romantic. Here's my jacket. That is the same act. But again, whatever it is that you are choosing to do with that woman on that first date, it is, I believe, more romantic when the person who A, initiated it, and B, is the man in the relationship, goes out of his way to make that woman feel taken care of in every aspect. And if that is, again, paying the bill, calling the car, picking her up, or none of that because he can't afford it and he wants to take her on a picnic in the park, it's all the same.
Again, I would just say then it's really nice when a woman goes out of her way to make a guy feel masculine and comforted by giving him sex and giving him a nice massage and doing all those things.
Things have to be earned. Those
But
things have to be earned.
okay, but so why does a drink not have to be earned? So why is there this double
Because
standard?
it's reverse. Because it's reverse. So in the beginning of a relationship, the man, I believe, has to show up more in those ways. And over time, the woman will invest. And the reason is, it honestly comes down to biology, but women have a much lower biological clock than men. There's a reason a woman can be pregnant, have 3 kids, and a man can leave at any point and have another life. That is the greater conversation that we're not having here. That's what I'm saying. The stakes are higher for women. That's what I'm talking about. So you can't tell me it's equal, because it's not equal. We're different species.
No, I don't think men and women are equal at all. I'm as far from a feminist as you can be. I don't believe that we're truly equal. But I do believe that you can't have your cake and eat it too. I do think something I see as problematic is I think that some women, and I'm not going to say a lot of women because it's not a lot, some women, they want to take advantage of all the aspects of modernism, like equal pay, I can do what I want with my body, which I'm fully in favor of. But then they also want to, when it suits them, take advantage of like traditional things. Like, yeah, the guy has to court me. He has to buy me a drink. It's like, I see a lot of like wanting, like having your cake and eating it too. Like, you can't have both ways. Like,
sorry, I'm just going to get my phone.
It's either like, okay, we go back to traditional things where the guy is like winning the woman over, but then the woman's going to be like, a housewife, which again is not what I want. I actually like a woman who is employed and who has a lot of things going in her life. Or we go by the modern standard, but we can't just go by the modern standard when it suits a woman and then go by a traditional standard when it suits a woman. We can pick one. So I just see that as a little problematic.
I'm not preaching that. I'm not trying to, I mean, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think you're using a different argument. That's not my argument. But we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think on this one, because we're kind of going circles, I think we got to move on to the next point. Yeah. All right. So the second thing, this will probably be a shorter debate, is you mentioned one of your videos, don't answer questions about body count. So for guys like, hey, how many guys have you been with? You shouldn't answer that question. I would also disagree with that. And my logic is that any guy who judges you based on the number of guys you slept with is not a guy you want to date in the first place. So for me personally, I ask that question all the time. It's not because I care. It makes no difference to me. I actually get a lot of flack for this in the manosphere community, because they say that, oh, yeah, I'm being a beta male because if a girl's been with 60 guys, she has, less worth than a girl who's been with 2 guys. I don't give a shit how many guys she's been with before me. I only care about what she does since she met me. So the argument I make is that it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Like, I don't think leg count should matter. Where you've been with 10 guys or 100 guys, it should make no difference. So I just don't see why you should dodge that question. And to me, if a girl
so why should you ask it if it doesn't matter, though?
I'll just pure curiosity. I'm like curious as fuck.
But
so I want to hear.
It doesn't matter. So where's the curiosity? I don't get it.
It matters. It doesn't matter. It's just I'm curious. There's things that I'm curious about. Like I like watching.
If you're curious about something,
videos about like Egyptian pharaohs, but it doesn't affect my life at all. Like those 3,000 years ago, but I'm curious about it. So there's things I'm curious about that have no meaning or matter in my life at all. Like I was watching videos about aliens 2 days ago. Like for God's sakes, like that's not gonna affect me.
So I watch okay, let's pick that apart. I watch a lot of alien videos. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna
your thing.
I was planning on being on my desktop, so that's why this is like a whole thing.
You're good.
So I watch a lot of alien videos. But I watch alien videos because it matters to me, because I want to know if where we came from. So for me, it does matter. I don't watch things because I'm just trying to kill brain cells. I don't ask questions because I don't care. Everything I do has a purpose. If I ask someone, for example, like, okay, if you were to, if I was to be in a relationship with someone and they asked me how much money I make, and then they said, oh, I don't care. Well, you do, because you asked the question. You want to know something because it's going to make you feel some kind of way at the end of the day. Whatever answer I have is going to leave you with some kind of outcome. You're either going to feel good about that number, you're going to feel bad about that number. There's no such thing as being neutral. There's just no
You
such
can be
thing as
just curious for curiosity's sake, though.
What is the underlying root of that curiosity? What is the you are going to feel some kind of way. And that's why I do think it's a question that if it doesn't matter to you, you shouldn't ask. If it matters, just say it. It matters to me. It matters to me how much money you make. It matters to me how many people you sleep with. It matters to me because it's somehow going to affect my subconscious. It's going to affect how I look at you. 100%. That's like me saying, oh, by the way, I went to jail. Or, oh, by the way, yeah, I murdered someone. Oh, but I don't care. I don't care. Oh, no, I still love you. I don't care. Yeah, you're looking at me different. 100%. So I don't buy that.
We can't equate murder though with like leg count, but okay, I see the point you're making. But don't you feel
every action has a reaction?
Sure, but okay, but don't you feel though that like if let's say you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, right? You're trying to build a foundation, and don't you feel that dodging a question will make the other person more curious and kind of make them, okay, what is she trying to hide there versus just answering, kind of having that. Like, I think the reason me and my girl work really well is that we're just like, everything's down the open. We have no secrets from each other at all. And, you know, I'm going to, like, in a month, I'm going to be single again. But, like, I do think that, you know, in case you're thinking, why did he approach me if he's in a relationship? It's an open relationship. So I'm not like a total scumbag. But anyway, so, like, I think that there's a lot of advantages having everything in the open. And that, like, I don't know. I just feel like if someone dodges a question, that to me suggests they're trying to hide something. Would you disagree with that?
Well, I never suggested dodging the question, which to me would be like, oh, no, I'm not talking about this. What my response was, I don't know how this is relevant to what we have. And that's not dodging a question. I think that's actually attacking it head on. Yeah, so I have no problem answering a question, but I'm choosing how to answer it in a way that doesn't affect the person's outcome. You know, again, every question, curiosity, it comes from a way that it's going to make you feel. You know, if, for example, let's say, so I've dated people of all different races, religions, everything. And let's say, you know, someone, I'm Jewish. So let's say I was dating someone who was like Muslim.
No, I didn't know that. I'm a half-breed.
Which I have done. You know, if they said, oh, what's your religion? Well, whatever religion I say is going to affect how they feel. So my job, you're either going to look positively on me, you're going to look negatively on me. There's no such thing as neutral. Okay. Just like, like some people, for example, if you say you're like a college dropout, maybe some people would be upset with that. Maybe some people would be impressed by that. The root of curiosity is it's going to make you feel some kind of way. And so I just don't buy that. Like, I just don't buy that. I'm sorry.
I just disagree that there's no such thing as neutral. Like, for example, you know, the guy who I go and get my vitamin IVs from, he has a nice office. I'm like, hey man, I'm just curious, how much do you pay for this office? He's like, oh, it's $2,500. No, he said $4,500 a month. Okay. Like, it didn't make me feel any type of way. And I have like hundreds of those things throughout my day. And of course, there's some things that make me feel either positive or negative. But like,
well, here's the thing. Let me challenge that. If you walked into a business and you asked that question and they told you their overhead was really, really low, their product was really, really cheap, maybe you'd leave that conversation being like, damn, I got to get into the supplement business. Like, this guy's making bank and he's getting started. You didn't feel some kind of way because it didn't influence your life in the way that maybe you were expecting, but it influenced you. There's no such thing as every outcome, every action has a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree with that, but I think that this is not really a topic that can be debated because it's just kind of comes down to like opinion and philosophy. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next point. So texting a guy you like first is a bad idea. So the reason I would hard disagree with that is I think a lot of men really like it when a woman shows interest, and myself included. So to me, a woman showing interest, like, and we're not talking about extremes. We're not talking about obsessively hitting you up like every hour. We're talking about showing a reasonable amount of interest is sexy. So that would be my counter argument to that.
What was the original claim?
Oh, you should never text a man first if you like him.
Oh, I never said that showing. So, okay, the two different things. You're talking about showing interest in texting. So, I do think it's important to show interest. I don't think you should
Okay.
be this like poker face person, because
Mhm.
that's not gonna, yeah, if you're interested in someone, you should flirt, you should smile, you should do all the things. Show them that you're interested, maximize your odds. I don't disagree with that. I think when a woman feels like she has to, we're not talking, and I did make this disclaimer. I don't know if I made it in the video or on my story
Mhm.
after I posted it, but I'm not talking about texting a guy who you're in a relationship with first. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about texting a guy where there's a healthy
Mhm.
dynamic. Again, I'm talking about when you're starting to feel that desperation and that like, I feel like he's not, yeah, I feel like he's seeing me as an option. He's leaving me on
Okay.
red. He's hitting me up late night. That's when I'm like, you definitely shouldn't text him first, because that's when
Okay.
most
Got it.
women have that moment where they're like, should I text him? And they're like asking all their best friends, should I text him? Okay, what if I say this? What do I
Oh,
say?
okay. Okay.
That's where I'm
Got
like,
it.
no, you should hold your horses.
I would agree with you then. So you're talking about you shouldn't text a guy first if it's coming from an unhealthy place, but it's okay if it's coming from a healthy place. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I do think like text with purpose. So I'm not a big fan. I think texting is really only in like, especially in the infancy of dating. I think it should only be used for flirting or making plans. Otherwise, I don't really see the point in
I
like,
agree with you.
what am I going to just text you and have like a conversation? Well, I just
Yeah.
went to Starbucks. I got a Frappuccino. What did you do today?
No,
Oh,
I
I'm
agree
just
with you.
at work. Snooze fest. Like that's not really leading me anywhere. So if I'm going to text, it's going to be with purpose. Oh, okay, like what time are we meeting? Or like just making sure we're meeting at this time, or where did you want to do it? What time? That's logistics. Or flirting, building up sexual tension. Hey, like just got out of the shower. What are you doing? Like there's otherwise no point.
Well, I think this is actually a point you and I agree on then, because the way you explain that makes sense. So I would say this goes into the first category then. All right, so another one, we're getting to the end of this list. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong on here, but kind of like I felt the underlying message in a lot of your videos was that for women, the optimal dating strategy is to be kind of like, I guess what's the word that I wrote down? Low interest and kind of play hard to get. Is that correct assessment or am I off?
No, that's not a correct assessment.
That's not.
I mean, if that's what you believe and that's what you interpreted or perceived, I can't tell you how to feel.
No, no,
Um,
no. I mean, I want to understand your message. I don't want to like
yeah,
do
I
like
appreciate
strong man
that. I think
arguments or something like that.
this is the interesting thing just about humanity. Everyone has bias, everyone has their own personal paradigm, and we interpret people and their commentary based on how we speak. I can come off kind of sassy in my videos, and that can, I think, sometimes make a man
Sure.
feel like, oh, she's just a man hater, whatever, right? So it's also just, I
Just for the record, I
recognize.
did not get that vibe.
Oh, thanks. But I recognize that sometimes the message is lost in the medium.
Sure.
I would say that my overall approach to dating is really knowing your worth and not making excuses for it as a woman, and not trying to romanticize situations, or see people for more or less than what their actions show. That's pretty much the gist.
So I guess let me rephrase the question then. What in your opinion is like the optimal dating strategy for women if you had to like sum it up in like a sentence or two?
If he is into you, he'll make it happen.
Mhm,
If he really wants you, he'll show it. You won't be confused. And if
mhm.
you're confused, then it's probably because he sees you as an option and not a priority.
I would probably agree with that actually. All right, so let's kind of go to the last point. Actually, there's a few here, but let's take this one. End off on this. So you mentioned in one of your videos, men should always like the girl a little bit more, because in the argument you make is that as the relationship gets going, it kind of evens out, right? Because the woman will sort of fall for the guy a little bit more, and the guy will pull away. But the counter argument I would give, and I actually fact checked myself before even stating this, is that 70% of divorces are initiated by the woman. So
Yeah.
given that statistic, it make more sense for the woman to like the guy more, given the fact that women are the ones who mostly initiate divorce.
Well, okay, two different things. So, divorce is mostly initiated by women because You actually, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Divorce with Scarlett Johansson. It won an Oscar. Really good movie. I actually wrote a paper on it. Basically, women, whoever files a divorce is at an advantage, because in the state, in the eyes of the jury, when you go into any kind of litigation, you involve attorneys, you have the upper hand. So that's part of why, women might be in seek of more spousal support. They might be in seek of custody over their children. So they know if they file for the divorce first, then they'll have an edge. Also, if a man cheats, then it might provoke a woman to file for divorce. And statistically, men in the United States at least, cheat on their wives more than the inverse. So that's a totally different statistic than the one that I was referring to, and the whole like men should love you a little bit more in the beginning thing. Two different things. As far as that original statement goes, I agree with my words. I do think that, if a man really wants you, he'll show it and he'll make it happen. And I think women give more over time. And we talked about that too, just biologically and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a correlation between a divorce statistic and early stages of courtship as far as a man really showing his interest in a woman.
I would say that it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's favorable to you if the other person is more interested in you, because you can trust yourself, fully, but you can't trust the other person, right? I mean, or there's different levels of trust. So you're kind of have the upper hand, as bad as it sounds, if the other person likes you more and you're the least interest one. So,
well, it's not that the woman. No, it's not that the woman doesn't like you. It's just
likes you a little bit less than you like her. I'm not talking about doesn't like you. I'm just talking a little bit less.
You saying that men are at a disadvantage with that? Is that?
No, I don't. I think that I think you want to be the party that likes the other person less. And I think that if you are that party, you have an advantage.
No, it's not that you like them less. It's just you need to see that they view you again as a prize to be won. And that needs to be earned.
But I would flip that argument and say that men should act like they're the prize to be won. If you read the book The Game, for example, I don't know if you read that once, like a pickup whatever Bible, but he makes the argument that part of the game is acting like the prize, right? And I would agree with that. I would say that anyone, like if you are the prize, you are an advantage, and that's a more powerful frame.
Men should see themselves as a prize. Men should walk through this world and they should feel like, I'm not saying men should dumb themselves down or diminish their worth either. I'm saying what's happening in society in modern dating is women are I think being told that that it's cool to sell themselves short. And that's the narrative I'm objecting. I'm not objecting men seeing their worth. I think people in general should see their worth, men and women alike. But if a man knows his worth, he's not going to feel like he's owed sex after buying a woman a $15 drink.
I think, though, that if you have a situation where two people are acting like the prize, like nothing is going to happen there. Like you can't have, at the end of the day, if you have two people who are playing hard to get, no one's going to get anyone, right?
Acting like you're a prize is not, this is, again, I don't know what your definition of it is, but my definition of acting like a prize is knowing your worth. It's not feeling entitled. It's not feeling better. It's just knowing your worth, knowing what you bring to the table. You are a prize to be won, as in you need to earn a seat at my table. Otherwise, I'm going to continue eating alone because I know what I bring to the table. And that is the mindset. It's not this pretentious thing. I think that I guess it sounds like you think it is. And I think men should also feel high value. Again, I coach men and I tell them too, I say, listen, you have all these incredible things going for you and you deserve to, find a life partner who is looking for those same things and values you in that way and really sees you, hears you, appreciates you. And if a woman can't do that, that is, divorce doesn't just affect women, it affects men too, incredibly, deeply. So,
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, both parties should see themselves as a prize. It doesn't mean you have two stuck-up people and a relationship can't work. No, quite the opposite. It actually means when two people who bring a lot to the table come together,
Okay.
you end up feasting. So it's quite different, yeah, than I think how maybe it's
Okay.
being.
I mean, I see your point. I wouldn't even disagree with that. I guess the way I interpret it is that like is like playing hard to get will work in your favor. That's a good dating strategy, which I would object to because I don't think playing hard to get is a good strategy. But if you're talking about purely in terms of like internal value and how you feel about yourself, then yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
If your personal standard as a woman is a man needs to do XYZ for me to sleep with him, and maybe that is 2 months of courtship, which for some women it is. Maybe it's he needs to take me on 5 dates. I don't know, everyone's allowed to set that standard themselves, but um you don't need to because here's the difference, okay? For a woman, you talk about body count. If you have a high body count, you're a slut. As a man, you're an experienced dude. And that's just the societal stigma. So you might be an accepting woke person here, but
I'm definitely not woke, but yeah, I don't give a shit
society
about girls'
doesn't
body count.
society isn't looking at it that way. And so the stakes really are higher for women. And as a man, you might tell yourself it doesn't matter, but everything does matter. And I just personally don't buy it. So that's part of why I think women, yeah, you're allowed to set your personal standard and you should uphold it.
Sure. I just think that if you set your personal standard outrageously high, then you can't be surprised if you wind up alone. Like it would be like if I'm hiring for a job and I put the qualification, like let's say it's like a entry level tech job, and I make the qualification so high, I then can't be like, well, why can't I find a good employee? There's no good employees out there when I set these standards so high. I'm not saying women should like, completely, but I think the standards have to be reasonable. Like if you're, let's say, and again, I'm not the biggest Kevin Samuels fan, but I do agree with some of the stuff he says. And he says, like, okay, if you're a woman who's, average looking, maybe you're not college educated, you're average income or whatever, maybe you're a single mom, whatever, you can't want the top 1% guy. Like you can't set the standard so high. Like
I
the
don't know
standard
why
has
we're
to be reasonable.
to average women though. First of all, most of my followers, the women, they're incredibly successful, well-educated women, or they're really beautiful women. So yeah, I mean, people, if you are moving through this world and for all intents and purposes, you are kind of mediocre. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, yeah, you if you're not at the top of your game, you're not going to get Brad Pitt. I'm sorry. But however, if you are really investing in your personal growth and success, and you know what your worth is, I don't think you should settle just for anyone. I do believe that for sure there's a fine line with being too picky. I tell my followers and my clients, don't try to have like 6 or 7 non-negotiables and don't really go over that, because then you're just going to end up, in no man's land. But yeah, I mean, if you have a lot going for you, I think you should hold out for the right person. And I say the same, like I said to my male clients. If your personal, like one of my clients, I don't like to really get into confidential details about people, but one of my clients is an incredibly successful businessman. He runs a lot of big properties in Miami, very well known. And yeah, he's looking for a certain type of woman, and he wants her to be extremely classy and elegant and well dressed and polished, and you know um, good with kids. And I said, listen, you're allowed to want those things because
Sure.
you bring a lot to the table.
Right.
Yeah, if you're an average guy and you maybe don't have a lot going for you in those ways, you should find someone who appreciates what you do have going for you.
Right.
But I don't think it's fair to generalize all people. Everyone's exceptional and special in their own right, of course. But it's about really knowing what you bring to the table and finding someone who appreciates that. And if you have like, for example, like if you had like Kate Middleton, okay, right? She was single. I would say, no, you shouldn't settle just for just any average guy who gives you, like, you should be with someone who loves you and appreciates you and, is also at the standard that you're at. So I'm not going to generalize all men and women.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean that wouldn't make any sense to generalize all men and women because we're so different. Well, I think like the argument, and it's not even something I talk about that often, but I think the argument some people would make is that what you see, especially in first world countries like America, is you see a lot of like inadequacy. So you see a lot of like a guy who's like, let's call him overall a 9 with a girl who's an overall a 6. And we're talking like everything that matters combined. So you see a lot of like the dating marketplace is like very skewed, I think, in a lot of first world countries. So you do see a lot of that, but that's a whole different side tangent. Yeah, I mean, I would say like my big appeal, like even though I guess I would be out of a job, then I do truly wish, and tell me if you feel the same, that like men and women could just all stop playing these games and we could all just have honest communication and we can be like, hey, listen, I like this about you. I don't like this about you. Like, let's not play these power games. Let's not do this weird shit where I'm guilty of playing these games myself because I'm going to play a game to win. But like, we stop playing all these games and we just engage in honest communication. I just think that dating has gotten so convoluted with everyone trying to one up each other, everyone trying to have the upper hand in the power dynamic. That's just like a total mindfuck nowadays.
It's a cute idea. I, I like I said, coach a lot of men and women. I can say from what I've
Yeah, of course, it's never happening.
Let me just, from what I understand from my male clients, men don't want to be assholes. They don't want to tell a woman, unfortunately, you're not hot enough. Unfortunately, you're not classy enough, or you're just not what I'm looking for, or I just kind of don't really like that you told me you slept with 200 men. Men do not want to say that to a woman's face because they don't want to be the bad guy. So they end up ghosting the woman, and then she ends up confused, and then she starts to resent him, and she drives herself crazy. It doesn't start off as a game. It becomes a game because people are avoidant. They don't want to be the bad guy and hurt people's feelings. It's just human nature. So, it's about, once you know your worth, you can understand that once you know your worth, you're not in the game as a winner or a loser. You are okay with people leaving because your attitude is, I'm okay with people not liking me. I'll be fine if they don't like me. I'll be fine without other people's approval, because as long as I like myself, I'm going to be okay. So, yeah, I mean, the idea of it not being a game is a cute idea, but you start telling a woman, unfortunately, like I was talking to one of my male clients last week. He goes, this girl had everything going for her. She was so perfect, but she didn't look the same way she does in her photos. And she was 35 pounds overweight. And that kind of pissed me off. And I don't want to ghost her, but I don't want to tell her, I'm sorry, like, I'm just not physically attracted to you, because I don't want to hurt her feelings. And then she's over here thinking, oh my God, like, it's because I said this, it's because of that. Like in a perfect world, of course, it'd be nice and it'd be great if people were like, you're bigger than I wanted you to be, and I'm looking for a supermodel. I'm sorry, sweetie. Or if a girl was like, oh, you're a really great guy, but unfortunately, like, you're not making 6 figures, and that's just not going to work for me. In a perfect world, it's great, but most people can't handle the truth, and that's how we get in these games. The best thing you can do is be a good person to other people, be sweet, answer the questions that are asked to you, show up for the people you want to show up for, or let them down really nicely. That's the best thing you could do in dating. And if someone wants closure and they ask for closure, give it to them.
I would agree with what you said, Nan. Don't think it's as innocent. The way I see it, it's more of like people get hurt for whatever reason, and then they go into the next interaction being very defensive because they want to avoid being hurt, and so they try to have the upper hand. And I just see like a lot of dating as like a game of power. It's almost like a miniature version of Game of Thrones, and I'm definitely guilty of it to some degree myself. I don't think it's just as simple as people not wanting to hurt other people's feelings. I think it's people humans being selfish and wanting to get the best from themselves and just wanting to minimize the chance of being hurt. Like, I mean, it's reasonable. Like, let's say a girl has been hurt in 3 relationships.
I would say selfless, because it's like you don't want to hurt the other person.
I would say most people are extremely selfish. Like, at least from what I see. I don't know. Are we living in the same city, in Miami? Most people are so
I have
selfish.
a half glass full perspective. Maybe your followers aren't seeing that, but I look at everything as I live in an abundant mindset. And that just means,
sure, I mean, I do too,
invest in situations and in people. And I mean, if, like, for example, I used to get really upset with ghosting, and now I think, you know what, ghosting's a beautiful thing, because when someone ghosted me, it just shows that they either don't have the emotional maturity, to confront me, or they're trying to spare my feelings, or they're simply looking for someone different. And, the person they're looking for, I'm sure they're great, but yeah, they're not me. No one's going to be me. And when you tell yourself these things and, you get yourself into a place of you just don't take it personal, you live in a more abundant state. I have everything I need and my person is coming along. And when the wrong person leaves, they make room for the right person to walk into my life. That's abundance. A state of lack or scarcity is more, oh my God, this person's such an asshole. He ghosted me. He must be like, it's all because of what I said. And I did this wrong. I did that wrong. Where does that leave you? It leaves you feeling more insecure. And that's what I'm trying to preach in my content is, when you know your worth, you don't seek it in others. You stop seeking other people to validate you.
I don't think it's, before we take questions, I'll make one last final point on this. I don't think it's about just validation, although it can be. I don't think abundance, those things are mutually exclusive. For example, me personally, I'm a huge believer in abundance. Like, I truly believe that I can go out and meet another girl. If one girl rejects me, it's really not a big deal to me. But at the same time, I recognize the fact that, and I'm not just going to say most women, I'm going to say most people in general, especially in a city like Miami, are massive pieces of shit. Like, I'll say it. Like, and there's some good people. I have a lot of great friends. I have a lot of great experiences, but most people are shitty, especially in like first world countries. Like, that's just,
I guess I disagree. I think everyone's trying their best, and I think there are good people that make bad decisions.
Okay.
I think there's evil in the world, but I don't think, I think there are people that either make bad decisions or are brought up in situations that turn them into bad people, but they do it in the name of honor. I think they're good people. So, I don't walk through this world thinking that if someone is a little snappy to me, I don't take it personal. I don't think, oh my God, that's a shitty person. Oh my God, this lady slammed my coffee. She's a shitty person. I'm just like, what? She's probably having a bad day. It's not my problem. I'm having a great day. She's not going to influence my day. That energy is not going to impact me. That's the difference. Most people let other people's energy really influence them. And when you are solid and you know that the only person who can influence you is you have control of yourself. You don't put the blame on other people, and you don't look at other people as like, oh, they're shitty people. I don't look at anyone as a shitty person. I think there are people who, I'm just rambling, I guess, but there are people who make bad decisions, or maybe they're more reactive to their circumstance. And I empathize with those people, and I've been one of those people in the past. Can't relate, and I'm not judging. And it's not going to impact me.
Preach, sister. No, I agree with all the last things you said. How you should not let people affect how you feel. How you should take responsibility. So these are all things that I would not disagree with one bit. That's how I also live my life. But I don't. Okay, anyway, we're kind of going off on like side tangents. So we basically agree on everything anyway. Let's take like a few questions because we have a bunch.
Someone said she's been giving self-help from 2013. I'm 25, so 2013, I was probably still a baby back then.
So I like this. Nobody should see themselves surprised. Narcissism is a problem. I would sort of agree with that, and I'm somewhat of a narcissist myself as well. So I recognize my own narcissism. Would you disagree with that, or would you agree with that?
Nobody should see themselves surprised. Narcissism is not seeing yourself as a prize. Narcissism is having an overinflated ego and using that ego to minimize people around you in order to basically in pursuit of some kind of outcome. Seeing yourself a prize, just seeing your worth. I don't think seeing your worth makes you a narcissist. Let's just say that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it kind of goes that definition. I don't know. I just feel like I'm living in the wrong age when it comes to dating. Seems like too many mind games going on. I would agree with that to an extent. I do think that there are a lot of mind games that are being played. I think it's a lot easier I've traveled around a lot, and I think it's a lot easier in like Eastern Europe and South America. I think it's a lot more simple. Like, hey, I like you, you like me. We find each other physically and emotionally attractive. Let's see what happens. Versus, I do think that in the West, especially as you get like in the upper tier, like you start going for like Instagram models and whatever, high athletes, whatever, there's a lot of mind and power games going on. But my advice is just get really good at playing the game. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
Sounds like he's heartbroken, so you'll get over it. Time will heal. As far
I don't
as
know. I don't know if that's fair to say that just because he doesn't like the marketplace that he is like hurt or something like that. I think it's a disgenuine argument.
I was just being a little sarcastic.
Okay.
Yeah. Wrong age when it comes to dating. So many pros and cons with dating in this current age. Pros are we're more interconnected. That you could meet someone from another side of other side of the world, and that is part of, I guess, just this dating culture. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of grass is always greener complex out there, and it's just you can either play the game to win, or you can disqualify yourself. Choice is yours, but everyone else is still moving. And I know that's kind of tough lovey, but your person is out there, and dating is a numbers game. The more dates you go on, the more likely you are to forge a connection. But that
I
also
would agree with
means that
that.
if you go on 20 dates, you're going to have maybe 19 that don't go so great. But guess what? That one date is all you need. You just need one person, one relationship, one compatibility, one connection, and then all those 19 won't matter. It's a numbers game. It's kind of like going on an interview. I use this analogy a lot. If I was applying to a job and I only sent my resume to one place and I went on one interview, well, the chances of me getting hired would be pretty low. And even if I did, I might not even like that company that much, but I'd have to suck it up because it was the only company that asked me, or I'd be unemployed, right? Or in this case, single. It's the same. If you're not going on enough dates, you're not going to be, your chances of having connection with someone are going to be drastically low. And then maybe the one person who you kind of like, you're going to end up settling for. Why do that to yourself?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said. What do you look for on dating apps besides the pictures, or just as a woman? What do women generally look for on dating apps besides pictures?
Besides the pictures, well, obviously dating apps are intended to be visual.
Yeah.
I think different things for different women. It depends on what a woman is looking for. If she's just looking for, if you're, for example, a woman and you're in Vegas or you're in Miami for a weekend, you might just be looking to see, okay, does this guy look like he owns a boat? Um, or, yeah, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, you might want to see, okay, does this person want kids or not want kids? Or is this person educated or not educated? Or where they go to school? What are their religious beliefs? Some people, for example, they want to marry like a Christian. It's not going to, and they see someone on a dating profile who's not that. It's like, okay, you got to make a decision. So it's so different, but I think similar characteristics or things in your bio that show your personality. For me, if someone's really kind of dry humored and I get the sense that like they're kind of sharp witted like me, then it's a turn on. But it's different for everyone.
Touche. I'm just skipping some of the questions that I don't really want to read. Let's take this question, and this is, I think this might come off as rude, but I don't think it's intended to be. I think it's genuinely out of curiosity. What are your what would you say besides like your life experiences, like what your qualifications for coaching?
Well, I coach several clients, mostly high profile clients.
Mm.
So men and women alike, all ages. Actually, a lot older, but also I have some clients who are as young as 19 years old. So I'd say that the fact that I'm certified mediator in the state of New York. So yeah, certified through Columbia University. Obviously, I am finishing up my master's in mediation and conflict resolution. So I would say that. And, I think when it comes to um, any kind of coaching, having good people skills is really important. I've been in a consumer facing role and since I was 14 years old. So, yeah. And then I think also just being well versed in different, coaching techniques. And then just the fact, the thing is with what I do, I've built this from the ground up. And there's a reason that my messages resonate with so many women. And I think the proof is kind of in the pudding. I don't feel like I've made it, but I definitely have some proof of, my coaching techniques, and I get thousands of DMs. I've probably since starting gotten, it's like 20, 30,000 DMs for people just saying how I've changed their life or impacted them, or now they have a boyfriend, or they finally feel confident. That's, to me, the biggest qualification. That is my biggest, that's the best testimonial, is when people have success stories. And I have 100% rebook rate on with my clients. Not one of my clients has just booked one and done. It's always been a rebook, because they see the impacts. And it's, some people might see me and be like, I'm not listening to this girl. She sounds like a loony. That's fine. But the people who I've helped, I think they've seen pretty dramatic changes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be booking with me, because I'm not cheap.
Well, that's a fair answer, and I would completely agree with you on that. I mean, the main thing that matters as a coach is the results you get for your clients. Your schooling, your background, none of that matters. It really matters what kind of results your clients are getting. If they're good, that's all that matters. That means you're a good coach, right? So, I would agree with you. Let's end it off with one last question, because the people have been asking this one quite a lot, and it's my favorite question to ask guests. No, not really, but it's an interesting one. Let me find it. Oh shit, got buried. Okay. Should you? No, basically the question was, what do you think of the Fresh and Fit podcast? Are you familiar with these guys?
No.
Not really.
To a lot of podcasts. I read ebooks, or I listen to ebooks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're a popular podcast in Miami. If you're not familiar with them, then I think we got to scrap this question, because we're not going to be able to get an opinion about something you don't know. All right, guys. So let's give Nelly a massive thumbs up for coming on the podcast, because seriously, it's not easy. I respect you for coming on here, because it's like, even though I keep it very respectful, I think that it can be intimidating for someone who's not like in the pickup niche to come on like a quote unquote pickup podcast, because you're like, oh, what if someone, disagrees with me or something like that. So thank you for coming on. And I think hopefully this can be a good example of how two people who don't really agree on everything can have like a good debate where everyone's respectful and no one feels like like there's, like this is like a good debate. I like having these debates. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I had fun. It's always fun to have, like you said, a little bit of healthy debate and different perspective. I'm very open to that. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Sure. If people want to find your stuff, how can they, where you're most active on TikTok, right?
TikTok, also Instagram. I do weekly Q&As on Instagram on my story. So they can find me at ask.nelly, ask.nelly.
Cool. We'll plug all her socials. So if you guys are watching this on repeat, just hit the description and definitely check out her TikTok. So at the very least, you can see a video of me, because we did a collab a week ago. Pretty fun. All right, Nelly, thank you again. Appreciate your time. Thank you guys for joining us. We got Ask Marnie coming on Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. And then we got a surprise guest Wednesday night. I'm going to announce it probably tomorrow, but you guys are going to really enjoy this one. So stay tuned. Thank you, guys.